Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Real Money, Real Business podcast. I'm Lauren, and today we have Peter on the show who's selling a SaaS business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. Hey Peter, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Well, appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited to have you on the show. I'm really excited to learn more about your business. But before we dive in, I'm just going to give the listeners a brief overview of the business so that they have a better idea of what we're talking about. As I mentioned, this is a SaaS business. It was created in August 2012, and it's in the art and digital media niches. The average revenue for the business is $24,542 per month, and it makes an average of $19,827 per month in net profit. The assets included with the business are a primary domain and all site content and files, secondary domains, contractor relationships, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter social media accounts, an email list with 26,000 subscribers, and a code repository. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 68941 to learn more about this business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So with all of that out of the way, let's hear from you, Peter. Can you fill us in on your background in starting and running online businesses?
Sure. My background is actually in product design. I used to run a small software studio out of Seattle. Eventually went full remote, kind of dispersed the team a little bit and shifted focus on creating software as a service.
Yeah, fantastic. That's a great transition. Wonderful that you were able to sort of become your own boss and use those skills for yourself. What inspired you to start this particular business?
I was drawn to the product given that it was in the creative space, so it was sort of right up my alley. Important to note is that I didn't actually start the business. I ended up acquiring it about 4 years ago, back in 2019. At the time, it was outdated. It was sort of like a small desktop offline software that focused on one specific feature. But since then, I've sort of rebuilt the whole thing from the ground up and turned it into a SaaS product and a more viable tool.
Yeah, fantastic. It was great that you were able to grow the business so well after you acquired it. Were you specifically looking for a business to buy? And what characteristics of this business attracted you to it?
Not necessarily. I guess I've been in the digital space for some time now. I've been running my software company since 2006. So, I'm always kind of keeping an eye on the industry and what's out there. And this sort of fell on my lap. It was an acquaintance of mine. And I just kind of worked out. I was intrigued by the idea. I thought I could, turn it into something special. And I thought I'd, give it a shot. And one thing led to another. And, 4 years later, and it's, full-blown business.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Definitely a success story. So the business earns money from a variety of different sources. Can you walk us through the different revenue streams that the business has?
Well, the primary revenue stream would be subscriptions. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think something like 80% is just subscriptions. We do have ads on the platform as well that are displayed to non-paying customers. So that attributes to some of the revenue, but that's pretty much it. Between the ads and the subscriptions, that's more or less 100% of our revenue.
Fantastic. So, Peter, given how well you've been able to grow the business over the last few years, what are the reasons behind why you've decided to sell the business now?
I think after some years, that same passion that I once had for the project just isn't there anymore, honestly. Difficult to pinpoint just one reason. I've put a lot of sweat and tears into building out this product from the ground up. But now I do feel like, in order to take the business to the next level, maybe a fresh set of eyes, is needed. Also, I've recently become a dad and I've been spending a lot of my time with my newborn. this time away from work and, all these other elements sort of contributed to my realization that maybe it's time to move on to something else. I don't necessarily feel the urgency to sell, but of course I would like to find the right individual who wants to buy it more than, I want to keep it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, congratulations on becoming a dad.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's rocked my world for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Definitely a life-changing event. Looking back over your journey with this business, I'm sure there have been a lot of ups and downs, but are there any particular success stories that you think back on that you're really proud of?
Yeah, I think the rebrand, the redesign, and the rebuild is probably something I'm most proud of. It was very, very challenging. Like I said, I've rebuilt the product from the ground up, scrapped the original product entirely. So we didn't actually reuse a single line of code from the original product, and sort of started from scratch. All the design work I did myself personally. And then I hired out help for the development part of the process. So just that whole phase of recreating the product, building it out, it's hundreds of thousands of lines of code. It seems simple on the surface, but it's quite complex in terms of the way it's built. So I would say I'm pretty proud of that. That's probably the most sophisticated product I've ever put together.
So given that you completely refurbished this business from the ground up, as you said, I'm sure there are plenty of challenges and obstacles that you had to overcome. What are those setbacks that stand out in your mind?
I can't necessarily think of one specific setback, but I would just kind of maybe go back to my earlier point and say that the biggest setback and challenge was just building out the platform itself. A tremendous amount of design and development went into creating the tool. And, when I first took on the project, I didn't quite realize just how much work was going to have to be put into it. So I would say that was sort of the biggest challenge and setback, in the sense that I didn't quite anticipate it to take that much time and require that much effort.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like a very big undertaking, but I'm glad you were able to get that right. Let's have a look at your traffic now. How do the majority of your subscribers find you? Are they coming through organically, or do you do any paid advertising to attract them?
Yes, everything is organic. I've never done anything paid. I don't really have any experience in PPC. So pretty much all of our traffic to date is just search engine driven.
Okay, perfect. I see you've also got a couple of social media pages. Are you doing any campaigns there?
I'm not, no. I set those up some time ago, but if you look at them, they've been inactive probably for several years now.
Okay, perfect. Well, with that in mind, what do you identify as the major opportunities for growth that buyers could tap into when they take over this business?
So this is a very broad question. We could probably dedicate a whole episode just talking about the ideas. But I guess briefly, I had thought about a few things in the past. I'll try to keep this as concise as I can, but one would be conversion rate optimization, and that's sort of like the low-hanging fruit that could potentially yield great returns. I've thought about hiring help, but never got around to it, and I haven't invested much of my own time trying to improve the conversion rate. But with nearly 500,000 monthly users, I do think that it could be very rewardful. Another one would be content. For someone who understands content marketing, given our high authority in the niche, there's a lot of potential to acquire new customers with quality content, I would think. Another one would be B2B. I think there's an opportunity there to expand the B2B side and create an API that allows print-on-demand services to offer our photo effects and filters to their customers. The foundation's already there, so it wouldn't be that difficult, and I'd be happy to facilitate this development. We received many inquiries in the past about our API, and they're generally from companies that wish to do, exactly that. Now that I think about it, a built-in sort of print feature could be another good idea. Many of our customers are photographers who turn their photos into sketches and paintings, and later sell their artwork as prints on Etsy. And some customers also convert their photos into cartoons, like photos of their pets, and then later print those photos with a print-on-demand service. So why not integrate the service into our platform, custom or with the partnership API, and create a whole new revenue stream that way? Another one would be mobile app. Nearly half of our traffic is mobile. If an iOS, Android app is created, that could potentially translate into 200,000 new mobile app users each month. So, obviously creating a mobile app would take some time, but it could bring in a healthy increase to brand awareness and revenue. I also mentioned PPC in the past, but that's not something I've done. I do think there's some opportunity there. Some of our competitors have been running campaigns for years. So I'm assuming they're achieving some kind of an ROI. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. And one final thought, something I've been thinking about recently is generative AI. That's an interesting one because it's a bit of a double-edged sword. We're seeing in the development of AI, in all honesty, could be seen as an opportunity or a legitimate risk factor. I think the key here is to prioritize these advancements and use them to your advantage by implementing the newly available APIs and expanding the product offer features, such as text to image, text prompt, image editing, and so on. Our product and photo editing in general is more in demand than it's ever been. And it's quite awesome that what seemed like science fiction just a few years ago can now be accomplished, implemented, and leveraged. So the way I look at it, our brand is very established and has a lot of authority, and it's in a great position to leverage some of this AI stuff. I don't know, these are just some ideas. I can talk about this all day. I've been writing things down, just never actually executing any of them, but I'd be happy to work with the new buyers on some of these ideas and, help out as much as I can.
Yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. It's great that you're bursting with so many ideas, and there seems to be so many different avenues that a buyer can explore, which is very exciting. Peter, let's have a look at some of your metrics now. What is the current churn rate for your subscribers?
Off the top of my head, I think somewhere between 12 and 13%.
Okay, perfect. Do you know what the lifetime value is for them as well?
Again, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I do believe it's right around a $50 mark.
Okay, fantastic. And then last metric is, what are your customer acquisition costs?
That I don't really know how to measure. We don't do any paid marketing, so I'm not really sure how to answer that, Lauren.
Yeah, so you don't have a lot of cost to acquire the customers in the first place?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And then your subscriptions, how many different subscription tiers do you have?
At the moment, we have a monthly subscription and an annual subscription. That's it.
Okay, perfect. And how would you say that your consumers are split across those two different subscription tiers?
I think it's about a 50-50 split.
Okay, great. And then you mentioned earlier that you work with a lot of photographers. What does the typical customer for your business look like?
A beginner photographer or graphic designer, that'd be one category. A small business owner who needs a simple tool for their basic creative needs, for social media posting and things like that. And one that I've seen a little bit more often in the recent months is folks who are looking to print their photos and turn them into sketches or paintings, and then turn around and sell them on platforms like Etsy.
Okay, great. So it's a really creative group of consumers that you work with.
It is, yes. Book authors would be another example of a lot of times we have individuals signing up, they've written a book and they want all of their photos or media in the book to be illustrative, to look like a sketch or a painting. So they'll take actual photos and convert them into those formats.
Okay, perfect. It sounds like you've got quite a wide target audience as well.
Yes, that's true.
Fantastic. So, Peter, obviously, when you first acquired the business and you were completely overhauling it, I'm sure it took up quite a bit of your time to sort of rewrite all of that code. But now that you've sort of settled into the business a bit more, what does a typical work week look like for you? How many hours are you spending on the business, and what sort of tasks are taking up the majority of your time?
Right. So initially, when I overhauled the whole thing, I think this was back in 2019, maybe 2020. Obviously, a lot of my time went into just the actual hands-on designing of the product and working with the developer. But, for a long time now, I've been hardly involved. I've sort of checked out, to be honest with you. Right now, I keep an eye on analytics, sales. I make sure all the services are up and running, and from time to time address any, high-level questions and delegate issues as they come up.
Fantastic. It sounds like a really great passive business in that way. Is that because you got any employees or contractors who help you maintain the business?
Yes, I have a small team in place. I have a part-time developer who oversees all end-to-end maintenance and software updates. I also have a customer support VA. She handles all the customer emails. And there's also a marketing VA, and her job is to do weekly outreach.
Okay, fantastic. And are they employees or contractors?
They're all contractors.
Okay, fantastic. Do you think they'll be available to continue working with the buyer?
I'm sure they will. They don't know that the business is for sale, but I'm fairly certain that they would be more than happy to continue with the new buyers, yes.
Fantastic. That's great. And would you say that the buyer, if they're not familiar with coding, would they definitely need a developer to work with them to help maintain the business?
Yes, if the buyer is not a developer, and this applies to pretty much any SaaS business, you certainly need a certain level of technical expertise, given that this is software after all. You do want to have technical background if you're going to buy the business, or you want to, have a developer in place. The developer that's currently maintaining the platform, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to continue with the buyers. But yes, either one would probably be necessary.
Yeah, as you say, fairly common within the SaaS industry. Over and above needing that technical knowledge, what do you think the biggest challenge might be for a buyer taking over this business?
Well, the business is very much turnkey at this point. It's hands-off, it's passive, it's very sustainable. The core team is in place and it's running smooth. We've been through every search algorithm under the sun, and for 11 or 12 years now have done very well. And that's very rare for an online business. From a technical and operational standpoint, I think a new buyer will do just fine, given that, we do have a developer on board. Where I do see some challenges is in keeping up with the industry, specifically investing the time and integrating some of these new AI features.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense. How much support are you willing to offer the buyer to sort of help them navigate those challenges and ease into the business?
Generally, I'll be available for as long as I'm needed, 60 days, just for, I guess, if I need to throw out a number, 60 days. But like I said, I'm sure I'll be around for a long time and more than happy to help out when I can.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that'll be a big help for the buyer. And when it comes time to sitting down with the buyer and negotiating the deal structure, would you be open to something like an earnout agreement?
Yes, I wouldn't rule it out, but to me, a stronger offer is the one that doesn't come with an earnout agreement. So I would prefer not to have to deal with it, but certainly I would consider all offers.
Perfect. And would you commit to a non-compete agreement?
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Fantastic. Well, Peter, that leads us into the final question of the interview. If you had to put yourself into the shoes of a buyer, why do you think your business is a business worth buying?
Of course, anything I say will come with a certain degree of bias, but I genuinely do believe that this is a strong and healthy business. Proof is in the pudding, as they say, right? It's very rare to come across an online business that's been growing for the last 12 years with tremendous amount of history and authority, a continuous upwards trajectory in terms of, organic growth and revenue, and an in-house team that makes this business an attractive passive investment. Not to mention it's a simple but a somewhat sophisticated product, not easy to recreate. It's got a beautiful design. It's an established brand, in my opinion. And with care, I think it could be a lasting investment too.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly sounds like a really great asset with a lot of great opportunities to explore. Are there any other details about your business that you want to share with our listeners before we finish up?
Nothing that I can think of, but if buyers have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them and happy to set up calls and dive into any specific areas of the business that they'd like.
Fantastic. Well, Peter, thank you so much for coming onto the show and giving us some more insights into you and your business. It's been really wonderful meeting you and talking to you, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate your time.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 68941. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.